it's a pain response. Like your body's like, oh shit, what the fuck was that? You know? And like
Yeah.
self-diagnose, bro. You rebooted the computer.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Rebooted
the computer.
I was telling Jay, we did that 9372 run, that run group in the morning today. I ran another 10K, and Devin got some really sick footage. He was like on the longboard and just like getting all the footage. It looked cool.
Nice.
Yeah, good day.
I'm sure. Did you have the gimbal too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be crispy and amazing.
Yeah, I ran like a 35K. So
I skated up and then skated back and then skated up.
He skated the 10K.
I skated a 50K.
Everybody had a good week.
Let's see.
Mine's been good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Productive.
I had a good week, Jim.
Yeah. I got actually through most of my goals. I got the one I didn't get through is my studying, and I missed one chapter. So I was like, fuck. But I listed a good amount of goals that I like. Damn, it's kind of. I think I'm gonna kind of stick with that regimen until we take like a break. You know how we have like holidays and stuff that just come up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably stick with a good amount of number like that just to push myself.
Nice.
David, did you see the video of it of biking and Ace?
Oh no, let me see.
Yeah, you did.
And let me show you guys a video of me and Rat Guy from New Year's because you're asking about our weekend stuff, and I think it's funny.
Everybody's like, oh, fucking, as soon as I fail, I fucking launch my camera.
Yeah.
Damn, that is a lot of snow. Holy shit.
It's nothing, bro. We're about to get like we're about to get like 8 inches. We're about to get 8 inches tonight.
Dang, dude. Ace is really that guy, bro. He's on there. Were you using just your what were you using to film? Was it attached to your helmet or anything?
No, it's just my hand, bro. I'm just one-handed.
Oh, okay.
One hand.
That's why I said. That's why I was like, oh fuck, icy. Watch the next video too, but watch what it sounds. I think it's funny, and it's with Rat Guy, so you guys will like it maybe. This is from us New Year's. We're on mushrooms, just out in Arlington on some scooters.
That shit is so fun.
Yeah, those scooters are sick,
dude. Especially at night when there's no one.
Dude, we're fucking ripping them, bro. At least that's how.
Yeah.
That's how
you max them out. I mean, they had them in Portland, and I remember I was like, bro, you guys are getting taxis. I could spend $2 and go anywhere in town.
Dude, no Uber. My friend was like, I got an Uber. I was like, why would I Uber when I could do this? Like, I'm all fucked up. I'm like, this is so fun. Fuck
yeah, dude, fun.
That was the most fun me and Ryan had the entire night. Me and Ryan actually, like, we purposely scootered multiple times because we're like, dude, like, you want to just do that shit again? Like, because, like, just fucking going out New Year's is so overrated, but I just don't want to be at home, you know? So I was like, yeah, just fucking whatever.
Scooters were sick, dude. That's always fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Why would I take an Uber when I can do this, dude? Like,
dude, and right after the video, right when we pulled up, my friend meets us at the Uber, and I literally like crashed the thing because me and Ryan are trying to do skids, and like he's like, "What are you guys doing?" It's like it's just funny. Yeah.
You had to be there. You had to be there.
yeah, literally.
Hell yeah, dude. So your back is sore right now, huh? Sitting up against this chair.
No, I actually feel amazing.
Oh, okay.
Feels a little way better. Like when the first thing is he was like, all right, sit down in the chair, back straight up, chest up. And like, even that, he was like, up higher. And I was like, dude, I am, you know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, all right, just stay right there. And he starts fucking like he like reset my, like, my muscles on where my neck is.
Yeah.
And, afterwards I was like, oh fuck, dude, everything feels easier. Like my posture is nicer. I don't know. It feels like everything's stacked like more like vertically, you know?
Yeah. He put the
I mean, I just think there's like a level of placebo effect in that because like if I go and get a massage, like it's like good for all like my body and my muscles and stuff, but that's not like it fixes like any of my soreness, any of like my misalignments. Like the same thing with the chiropractor thing. Like I think it gives like a window of like good feeling, and maybe it's fake, like maybe it's like you're talking about like aligning stuff, but like it's literally like your structure, like however you work out your body and however you like walk and stuff, and like that's your structure. Like the guy for like even if it's 1 hour, like it's like that's literally not gonna fix anything. Like that's just the truth, you know. Like he's not realigning your like skeletal structure, you know. Like the most he's doing is like moving some muscles around temporarily. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had the hot rocks on you, like where they put for like a massage and they put
A
hot
spa
rocks on
type
you?
shit?
That
Nah.
shit feels so.
Like
good,
if
dude.
you really want to fix your back, you need to do like dead hangs, like multiple minutes a day, and like tons of stretching.
Next time you see me, dog, just wait.
He gonna be
Just-
6'4",
I'm
bro.
gonna be.
Okay. Look, dude, like I do dead hangs, I do stretches, I go to massages. I'm just saying, like the chiropractor thing is just like it's just like getting a massage. Like it doesn't fix anything. It's just like a nice thing.
Yeah. I had this
dude.
guy,
Not me.
Tsui, bro. I fucking I fell off my that longboard actually, and fucking landed like on my side. And after that, like coughing, everything hurt. I was like, fuck, I broke a rib or some shit, you know. Went to him and he was like, oh yeah, your rib's out of place. My mom and dad were like, your rib's out of place. I was like, I didn't even know that was possible. Went in there, he put his fist right under the spot that was like the rib was out, and he just slammed his body weight into me, and fucking that's what I was like, oh, like
Function your lung.
yeah. I was like, he's like, dude, you're lucky you did the right thing not coming in right away, because like the first 3 days are super sensitive, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, you did the right thing waiting, because that whole time it felt weird to breathe. It felt like just weird in general. Fucking when he's fucking just threw his whole shit into me, bro.
Well, that makes sense. Like you could knock like your shoulder like out of like dislocating. You could literally just be like, hang on a second, and like pop it back in. So like I get that, right? I get that.
Yeah.
He pulled my hips, and it felt like it like just went back like where it's supposed to. Like I felt the like it like moved.
You
it was
nutted, bro.
fucking weird. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes they hit a spot, bro. No homo.
Have you seen talk about that? Have you seen the chiropractor videos? It's like always the Russian one where they pull out the metal spike and they put it right near the ass and they hit it with a hammer. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's like I love chiropractor videos. It just goes straight to that. Like that's the meme. It's like no homo, bro. It really works. It's just this Russian guy with like this huge metal thing and a big hammer, like right on the tailbone, like right above the asshole. And you're like, yeah, dude, like no homo, it's pretty sick. It's just really funny.
I haven't seen that, dude. The fucking big ass mallets.
And when you hear it, it's like bing, like literally you're like, oh shit, oh, like the guys are always like, oh shit, oh. Yeah.
Instant nut.
Right. On
The
impact.
trigger point. Yeah. The valve got fucking, yeah.
Oh
shit, we're recording.
That's all good. We'll cut all that, dude. We'll cut all that. It's fine.
Stand by that.
All right, yeah. So I think everybody had a good week.
I'm on cloud 9 right now, bro.
That's good, dude. That's good. Me too. I feel good right now, actually.
He got fucking pinged, bro. He got fucking pinged. He went to the chiropractor, got pinged, bro.
I swear. Never mind.
Okay, well, just to start us off, like these past couple might have been like at the very least more engaging for me to read.
These are my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I was quick to say favorite, but like that was the first thing that came to my head. I think these have been my favorites since I've been reading them. And maybe that's just because like they're the most engaging to me. But
yeah,
like,
instead of talking about other people, he's talking about the individual in his mind.
just the whole thing, like if I would grade this up until now, I'd be like kind of a hard read, kind of boring. Talked about a lot of the same stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into. I'm like, all right.
Now we're cooking.
He's philosophy.
Yeah, now we're cooking. All right, meat and potatoes. I got some actual thought I can think about. All right.
Meat and potatoes.
All
right,
right.
give it to us, Jay. What's the breakdown?
Let's start with 29.
Ping me, bro.
We're gonna start with 29.
Oh, 29. All right.
Oh fuck! I hella forgot about 29.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a line that well, this whole one was pretty interesting to me, but I highlighted this one line and it says, it's the first one. It goes, "It is the business of the very few to be independent. It is a privilege of the strong, and whoever attempts it, even with the best right, but without being obliged to do so, proves that he is probably not only strong, but also daring beyond measure." And I thought that was a really interesting point, because I just thought it really sounded cool too. Like in order to be independent, it's a privilege only for the strong people.
Independent of what though? Like what? I think that hearing that, the independent factor, I think that could be like how you take it, how you take the interpretation of how he's talking about independent is how you interpret that. So like I'm curious on like what you mean independent of what.
So I think if just taking the context of the book, what he might be saying is, you know, everything leading up to this, we're like, here's classifications of thought, and here's where they're wrong, right? And so he's acting independent in that sense, where he's questioning ideas that people kind of take as like concrete fact, or just like this is the way it is. And for you to be independent is to be separate from that. So I would say in the context of the book, that's what independent means.
Okay.
But to me,
I took it differently, you know, personally.
me too. But I'm thinking like how he's writing it, and his writing up to this point would be from that paradigm. But for me, independent, and it takes me back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the independent, interdependent, and codependent. Remember that whole discussion? I think of that, where it's like independent, where you're, you know, you have to learn to be independent to be interdependent.
Yeah, and I mean the two things are the same. So like before you can have like independent thought, so like even if like the majority of people think a thing and like you disagree with it, one of the reasons why you're able to have a thought independent from the majority and be able to like stand by it and like safeguard it is because like maybe you've learned independence from like on all like the physical things, like living independently, having your own job, paying your own bills, like the things like, and so like for me, example, you know, I've been living alone for a long time now. Like I picked my own career, like welding. Like no one else in my family did that. Like I went to school by myself. I took out my own loans, paid off my own loans. I bought my own cars. Like, so like, I feel like because I've learned how to be independent, and it really is like, what's the word he uses? A privilege. It really is a privilege that I've been able to be independent because of that. Like, and you guys like can stand by this. Like, I think I make a lot of like hard, tough decisions for myself, and like it doesn't phase me that much. Like the whole COVID thing, shit didn't phase me. Like I stood by my decisions. Like when I like decided to move to California, I was like, I'm fucking doing this shit. When I decided to move back to Virginia to try this like new teaching thing, I was like, I'm gonna do this shit, you know? Yeah. And like it's because like I know that like no matter what, like I'm literally gonna like it. I'm literally always gonna handle it. Like no one's ever like even if everyone would let me go, which thank God I don't have that. People always do want to help me. I've always been able to handle it myself, you know, and I got some of that like experience early on. And so like, I trust myself, and I trust myself to have like my own thoughts and to like look at things my own way, you know, because like even if I have failed myself, I've been able to like save and protect myself always, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That quote was really, it's a good way to start because,
the daring part kind of made me seem like, well, I don't know if I'm daring, you know, but that the first part leading up to it, I was like, he's absolutely right. And there's levels to it, you know, like I said all that, and like, you know, I'm proud of that. And there's literally people who take that and become like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, you know? So like
it does require daring, bro, to move from Virginia to California. That's daring, you know, to move from California back to Virginia to do a job that you've never done. That's daring. And some people couldn't measure that. They just like, I couldn't imagine doing that, you know? So it is definitely daring. You dare to risk it, you know?
For sure, I'll dare to risk it. Like even doing the welding school or my first job being in Maine. I was like, dude, I'm just trying to send it, guys. One thing that I wanted to talk about that he made me think about when he talks about like I'm gonna summarize it because I can't find it right now. But like the weight of having an idea, and then for other people who like don't quite even understand like your context of thinking or like how you came to the idea, how they pick up your idea later and like twist it into a different thing. You know what I'm talking about? How he unpacks that here.
Yeah.
29.
Yeah. Let me. If you give me a second, I can find it.
Well, let's continue. We might find it. Like on the next sentence after the one we just discussed, we might find it.
Oh, is that what I'm talking about?
The labyrinth and the Minotaur example. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted to. We'll get to that. Might not be 29.
Okay, my bad.
Okay, we'll continue then after that first quote. So the next lines are: he enters into a labyrinth. He multiplies 1,000-fold the dangers which life in itself already brings with it. This is the independent person. not at least of which is that no one can see how and where he loses his way, becomes isolated, and is torn piecemeal by some minotaur of conscience.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? Like, I mean,
Nietzsche's wording is so insane, dude. Like,
Right? But the minotaur of conscience, conscience is a psychological thing, right? It's something of the brain,
the inner voice.
right? It's
your emotions, senses, and thoughts, according to Nietzsche.
okay. So we have all that, right? Yeah, that's from that. So you have you're thinking about it, and you inside your brain you have these like hidden monsters. I wrote it in here, hidden monsters, as like, you know, nobody can see them. They can't see how or where he loses his way or becomes isolated, but you are torn piecemeal by some minotaur of conscience. So like addiction would be a minotaur of conscience. Like, you know, maybe there's some things you shouldn't be doing, or like I shouldn't be doing, but you continue to do it. And you feed these monsters and they continue to get stronger. I was like, wow, that's a way to put it, because I've had this idea before, but I've never had it described this way. So a minotaur of conscience.
An elaborate.
Yeah, no, I mean, no. Jordan Peterson says it the same way. He calls it like a dragon, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. And Jordan Peterson loves this guy. you know?
Right.
So, like, I think people call that a lot of different things. In the Bible, they call it the devil.
Okay. You don't think the devil's personified?
A minotaur is literally like semi-human creature. Is that not a personification of a fucking like demon? You know, same thing with a dragon. It's like a monster. The devil's a monster. You know, he's like an angel that fell.
Yeah.
So he's like not human. And like when he first sees them, he's a snake. So it's the same as personified as the minotaur.
True. We'll continue. Supposing such a one comes to grief, it is so far from the comprehension of men that they neither feel it nor sympathize with it. And he cannot any longer go back. He cannot even go back again to the sympathy of men.
Yeah, that shit funny. Two things. One, there's this quote I remember because I wrote it in high school. Like we'd like write, it was like some assignment about like find a quote or like a poem you like. But it's like a man's mind once, like I'm butchering it, once expanded by an idea can never go back to its original form. And I was like, I like that. And like what he's talking about, he's like, once you like have a thought and once you try to like go down that thing, like there's no going back, like for real, because like you're a different person after the thing. Like, can you backtrack? Yes. Can you like can you pivot and go somewhere else? Like, yes, but like it'll no longer be the same thing that it was. And like that's the truth.
That's the like Marcus Aurelius, where he says life is like a river when you throw a leaf in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
it's
that.
the same river, it's the same river, same leaf, but it's like way different. Like it's never the same spot.
Exactly. Yeah, and then he says this person can't even go back and get the sympathy of men. So people won't even understand like your plight in that sense. Like if you dare to be independent, you're an independent thinker, you're different than the people around you. And now once you've explored that road, you go back to the people after you've kind of hit like a wall or something, and they're just there's no sympathy for that.
It's not even like, sure, like it's just like, how deep are they going to sympathize over like your feelings?
And
you know, like the closest people that would really feel that shit for you is like your parents, maybe, you know. Like my mom's like very invested in like anything that my brother and I do, so she would sympathize with us. But like that, you know, maybe your family, because like it's like a different bond between like you and your fellow man, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, the only person that's really going to be able to do it, like sympathize with you for real, is the people that have done the said activity. Because sympathize is to feel what the other person's feeling, but there's no way somebody who hasn't experienced what the independent person has experienced, like they can't sympathize because they don't understand.
True. I see what you're saying because it's like a new thing, but they could have like. Okay.
But
I see
like,
what you're saying. But people could sympathize. Like it could be a new idea for you, but it could be like a well-known thing for a lot of people. You know?
right. But like, if I was like, man, grad school, man, bro, I gotta
Oh,
get, you know what I mean? Like, then you would be like, man, that sucks. But you couldn't be like, yeah, I know, like that should fucking, you know?
totally. Just today, like I was talking to like a former student, and they were talking about like finals, and I was like, I literally said, I was like I have no idea. They're like, it was crazy hard. I was like, I have no idea. Like I can't even comprehend like what that means because like I never win. I have no idea. Like is that hard? I have no idea. You know. So yeah, I'm like that's a dead end right there.
Yeah, exactly. So like, people can't sympathize because they just, it's not in our book.
True. I couldn't even calculate like what does that mean. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's the idea there. It's kind of what I'm getting. To be independent is a privilege. Be prepared to go through the labyrinth, and be prepared for no sympathy when you come back to people and share what you've learned.
True.
Yeah.
All right. 30.
30.
This is the one I was talking about.
I like this one a lot.
Hold on, give me a second.
Okay. I have something to say.
No.
Is it from the beginning?
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
Okay. From like where it starts to where the line at where it ends at philosophers. Jay, you want to go ahead and read it? Then I'll talk about it.
Sure.
Jay's the guy. Yeah.
Our deepest insights must and should appear as follies, and under certain circumstances as crimes, when they come unauthorizedly to the ears of those who are not disposed and predestined for them, the exoteric and the esoteric, as they were formerly distinguished by philosophers.
All right. When I first read that, this is what I was talking about with like the feel the weight of an idea and that like someone in the future who like wasn't present with the idea and like you can't talk to them about it and like for real like show them like your perception of the idea, they might take it and like twist it and like they're not actually ready for the idea. And what made me think of is like him saying this and like how like a lot of people say that Hitler drew inspiration from him, you know? So like that's exactly what he's talking about. Like Hitler like picked up his ideas like much later and was like, I know exactly what he means. And like he was like, bro, I don't think you did. I really don't think I don't think I think you took it the wrong way. When I said Superman, I didn't mean the Ubermensch. I didn't mean that shit, dog. I meant like a different thing. So that's the first thing that got me thinking when I read that.
Okay. Let's unpack it a little bit. So our deepest insights must and should appear as follies. So a folly is just like, it means it's lack of sense. Like it looks like
it's like a mistake, I would say.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't make sense, you know? So our deepest insights must and should not make sense, and under circumstances be viewed as crimes, when they come unauthorizedly to the ears of those who are not disposed or predestined to them.
Exactly.
So when I haven't given you permission to share that idea with me, I wasn't predestined for that. So they can be viewed as crimes.
Correct.
The exoteric and the esoteric. So exo is intended or likely to be understood by the general public. And esoteric is intended for or likely to be understood only by a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. So the general public and the select few, as they were formerly distinguished by philosophers. This exists among the Indians, the Greeks, the Persians, the Mussulmans.
By the way, like I would say I don't agree with what he's saying. Or maybe agree is not the right word, but no, I guess I agree with what he's saying. but never mind. Never mind. It's just like the fact, like you shouldn't you shouldn't be like, hey, these people can't handle the truth type of shit. Like we should all be able to be like, there shouldn't be a special class like the esoteric and the exoteric. Like there shouldn't be like two classes of people that like can handle the truth and can't handle the truth. You know, that thinking is what I was like, well, that's just what it is. You know,
Right. I mean, even in the military, there's people who know and there's people who don't know. You know,
that's the military's a little bit different. Yeah. Okay.
But he's saying this even exists in like Greeks, Persians, Muslims, the Indians. So like, you know, when Indians came over to, when Britons came over to India, they subdivided like classes of Indian people, and I forget what they're called.
It's literally, is it not just called the class system? Like,
it is, but no, there's the highest class of people.
Oh.
Right. I forget what they're Brahmin.
People at the bottom are the
I think it's
untouchables,
Brahmin.
right?
The bottom is like peasant people.
Mm-hmm.
The Brahmin were like the top of like Indian society. So those were like the small esoteric people that knew what was going on. And then
I'm literally serf class right now. It's bad. Just above peasant.
So wherever people believed in gradations or rank and not in equality and equal rights.
Guys. Yeah. Okay. I mean that does happen. And I guess you do kind of need that to have like a hierarchy.
Right. The more essential distinction is that the class in question views things from below upwards, while the esoteric class views things from above downwards.
Okay. All right. I thought this was really funny. Maybe it's because I was just high, but like I reread that like 5 times and I was like, all right, I get it. He's saying the same thing. It's like that picture where it's like spot the difference, and then they're like, it's the same picture. You know? That's what I thought
what he's saying is where you're looking at it from. It's the same picture.
Read it again though, but it's literally the same thing. So one looks from above downwards. Where's the other one at? Hang on, fuck, dude.
Below upwards.
So one looks below upwards. So from below upwards, another one looks from above downwards. Yeah.
So it's just like a different view on life.
Yeah.
There are heights of the soul from which tragedy itself no longer appears to operate tragically. And if all the woe in the world were taken together, who would dare to decide whether the sight of it would necessarily seduce and constrain to sympathy? I'm going to continue.
Yeah.
That which serves the higher class of men for nourishment or refreshment must be almost poison to an entirely different or lower order of human beings. Oh my gosh, dude. That is insane to say.
Yeah.
So like what is viewed to a higher class, let's say the Superman or whatever, what is viewed to the higher class as like nourishment or like refreshment is a poison to an entirely different and lower order of human beings. That's crazy. It continues. It says, the virtues of the common man would perhaps mean vice and weakness in a philosopher. It might be possible for a highly developed man, supposing him to degenerate and go into ruin, to acquire qualities thereby alone, for the sake of which he would have to be honored as a saint in the lower world into which he had sunk.
Can I ask you a question? Okay. So when he's talking about this, like the higher and lower man, is it just about like where you are at in society?
I think that's how we're taking it, kind of, right?
Well, okay, because this is my thing. Okay, like the vice that like the lower man does, and then compared to the higher man, but like okay, so like poor people do like meth and heroin, you know? But rich people do like cocaine, Adderall, and like Xans. And like so it's like the same thing. It's like the same vices, you know?
No. The confusion is coming from the common man. So this is what it says: the virtues of the common man. Virtues.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Would be. Let me see. Hold on. Would perhaps mean vice and weakness in a philosopher. So like virtues to a common man would be generosity.
Okay.
And then the philosopher, that would be a vice to him. So by practicing generosity, I get some sort of gain from that, whether it's public, like my public like image. These things are vices to a philosopher.
Interesting.
You can
Okay.
use generosity. You can use
All right, unpack it more. Okay. Okay. Explain it more.
So you can use generosity. What are other virtues of the common man?
But real quick, so those values, is he saying here? Because depending on the perception of looking like from above downwards or below upwards, they're seen as opposites of like what their true value is. Like that generosity could be viewed as like poison or something negative to the counterpart.
Yeah. So
I kind of get what you're saying, Jay. Show me another example of like, okay, a virtue of a common man is generosity. Okay. And
Okay.
and I see an elevated man, him using generosity, much like Bruce Wayne from
Yeah.
Batman, right? He uses that as like a vice to cover up that he's Batman. I've been watching a lot of Batman. So like what's another common man virtue that a higher man uses as a vice? Show me another. I'm starting to get it. I want another example to make sure I get it, and to make sure we get it. We can't bring up 3 examples if we don't get it.
I think he talks about it later, but like self-sacrifice,
meditation.
Meditation
would be a virtue among society, and Dalai Lama is the king of meditation, and because that he gets a different view from public image. He's the king of meditation. He's the king of meditation. He's the king of, let's say, the virtues that he's trying to practice. Let's say patience. The lack of craving would be another one. These are all virtues that the common.
That's his vice. So he just like overdoes it, and that's why he's a master at it. I'm just trying to understand.
So let me continue here. It says, it might be possible for a highly developed man, supposing him to degenerate and go to ruin, to acquire qualities thereby alone, for the sake of which he would have to be honored as a saint in the lower world, into which he sunk. So this philosopher uses the vices and becomes like a saint among the common men.
Okay.
And so that's why I was saying Dalai Lama, because it's somebody who's viewed as a higher than, like they're placed at a higher level among the common world.
Yeah,
for sure.
We were just critiquing like the lack of craving, right? How like that doesn't mean that you're necessarily.
It's not the key to life.
It's not. Yeah,
it's just fucking lame. Like you don't even help out your fellow man. Like you're literally just deciding to not participate. Like what a bitch move.
Tell that to the Dalai Lama, bro.
Fucking, I wish I would. I was like, how can you tell me? How can you tell me that you're better than your man by like literally only consuming? Like what a bad deal. But whatever.
He'd be like, no, just meditate.
But I mean, the guy that set himself on fire for the lack of craving, like he would be considered like next level. The virtue of not craving.
But sometimes like, they think that, but like everyone else is like, that's crazy. Like remember that guy, the army guy who set himself on fire for the trans rights? Everyone's like, who the fuck is that psycho? He fucking no, sorry. It was for Ukraine? Or maybe it's for Israel. I don't fucking know. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about? J-Mo, look it up. But fuck it up.
It's Palestine.
The army guy who set himself on fire to like protest like the war or whatever. Everyone's like, who's that fucking bitch? Like he was not propped up on a fucking pedestal. We're like
a different common man, bro. It was a different common man.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Let's continue.
Dude. Oh,
Okay. I'm starting to get it, guys.
There are books which have an inverse value for the soul and the health there are books which have an inverse value for the soul and the health according as the inferior soul and the lower vitality, or the higher and more powerful, make use of them. In the former case, they are dangerous, disturbing, unsettling books. In the latter case, they are herald calls which summon the bravest to their bravery. So there are books.
He's like hyping himself up. He's like, this that book,
Yeah,
bro.
this that
He's
book.
like, this that book.
So what he's saying is there are books which have an inverse value for the soul and the health that are for the inferior soul and of the lower vitality. Then there are those that are higher and more powerful, and they make use of them. So like
Hitler
I
was
mean,
like,
well, no, I mean, like you could say like stoicism is like a level of like health, like I would say elevated like health and like spiritually, and you can use that like thinking to like elevate yourself. Like I would say Christianity is like another form of that, and he might disagree with that, by the way. But like if you read books and like theories and like ideology that coincide with like, let's say like like you're non-religious and like you're a nihilist maybe, you know, and like you think like this is all for nothing, then like what is that doing to like your spiritual health, your mental health? Like if you think that you're doing something for like a greater cause, like your production will be up, like the way you engage with your community would be up, the way you try to like hold yourself to a higher standard would be up, because your measuring stick is larger than oneself. And like if you take away like a broader picture, your measuring stick is just your fellow man, which is pretty low, you know? So like that's what comes to my head when I hear that, you know? Like you can read things that can elevate you because like they can inspire you, they can get you thinking, like just like in this book, like we're getting to think a different way. Like when I read Meditations, I remember feeling like a great like calm and strength, because I was like he's right, I can just look at it this way, you know?
Right.
Reading David Goggins, I was in a mindset where I was like, I can do more, you know? But I could have read a book about like how like people of color are victims, you know? And I could have been like, damn, because I'm fucking part Mexican, my life sucks, you know? But like, I never read shit like that. I never like subscribe to stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when I hear this.
Okay. The part that gets me is he says, so there are books which have an inverse value for the soul and the health, according as the inferior. Like that grammatically is just weird to me. And the health according as the inferior soul and the lower vitality. All right, let's continue. Books for the general reader are always ill-smelling books. The odor of paltry people clings to them. Where the populace eat and drink, and even where they reverence, it is accustomed to stink. One should not go into churches if one wishes to breathe pure air.
dude,
Okay.
that's crazy. He's like calling out the church.
Yeah.
Insane.
To be honest though, I like that whole line. And like the first part about like certain books for the like the lower man, like smell or whatever, like he could be taking stabs at the Bible because it's like the most common book in the world.
Yeah.
For me, in my paradigm, I didn't take that sense. What I thought of is like, did you guys see that woman who was like viral last week for reading all those books, and they were all like smut books, but she posted she's like read 118 books this year, and like people checked it on Twitter, and like 80 of them or 90 of them were like smut, like pretty much like soft porn books. Okay.
Okay.
Like I was thinking like the friends that do read books, if I talk to them about it's typically like something that's kind of in a fad right now, if that makes sense, you know?
Mhm.
Right.
A lot of like my women friends, like they read like a lot of books, but they're more like stories and novels, you know? And
Yeah.
there's literally nothing wrong with that. Like I'm reading Frankenstein right now. Like we read 1984. Like a book's for fun is for fun, and even in those books, like we can talk about it. Like there's a lot to learn in those books that were like those fiction books. But there's also a lot of books that like are almost like kind of like if you're playing a video game, it's like an old ruin type book, you know, like when we read like the Brothers Karamazov or Crime and Punishment, you know, this is like an older classic type. Yeah, it's more far off, it's more obscure, there's a lot more to unpack, and like for the common person it's like fucking too much. Like the Brothers Karamazov is a fucking lot, like Crime and Punishment was a fucking lot. But like if you're capable of like seeing the journey through, like there's something there, you know, and there's not a lot there in these like shallow books about like a pirate who like rapes you, you know. But
Well, lot of people don't open the shadow clone scroll, bro.
Exactly. And then the
Yeah.
last part, when he talks about one should not go in the churches if one wishes to breathe pure air, in my own like paradigm, I've never liked going to church. It always feels stuffy in there, and I never like how the guy on the stage is telling me how to interpret the Bible. It's like I kind of like more like I just want to like listen to him read stuff and then like kind of like largely unpack it. But every time I go to church, it's always like very like micro impact, and like a lot of it seems artificial to me, and that could just be because of like how modern day churches are in America. But it always
You
feels
want,
very
you want it to be like book club. You want it to be like book club instead of like somebody telling you what it is.
I want it to be like book club. I want to have a conversation about it, and so people say like you would like what's
Bible.
it called, Bible study.
Yeah.
And I was like that makes sense. But going to church, it always feels artificial, and people are always like I think of like people are always worried about looking bad to the community in the church. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
Dude, just be your fucking self. If you can't be yourself, we shouldn't fucking be here, buddy. You
Right,
know,
that's why
like
everybody wears their nicest clothes and all that.
so when I read that, I was like, I know what he means, and I believe in the Lord. Like I think like church is good for a lot of people. I think like originally when we built cathedrals, that was like a building that was like literally meant to like praise the Lord and its beauty. Like that's something. But like what we have today, like when I read that, I felt that.
Yeah. Well, like the way I take this, and like,
and I could be wrong, Dave. I know you like church and stuff. You know,
church is like it's a golden term. You know what I mean? When you read church, you think of your church, but I think we should take church as like it's a placeholder for a bunch of different things. So like books is as well. So books for the general reader are always ill-smelling books. Books back in those days were people's tweets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people that knew how to write, people that knew how to do things. It was their tweets, right?
Totally.
Books for the general reader are always ill-smelling books. The odor of paltry people clings to them. Where
like
the
propaganda, like Twitter right now, you know,
it smells. And so where the populace eat and drink, so the overall idea is where people get together, like let's say there's an idea that people just like they're all around this idea where they eat and drink, and even where they reverence is accustomed to stink. One should not go into those churches if one wishes to breathe pure air. So it could be an ideology, could be the church, it could be the books, could be tweets. Like if you take this into kind of a modern context, so
and like, it could just be like they use the word like your place of worship. Like for example, I know people like the gym is their church,
right?
Like that they don't have a lot of like firm principles or beliefs, and that's whatever, that's fine. But like they go to the gym, and like their culture is going to the gym, and like the other guys that go to the gym, like that's their thing. And like if you're going and talking, like you're only talking about that, like, everything seems cool and dandy and stuff, you know. But like sometimes it's like,
you know, when somebody goes to the gym, they have an odor about them, not like their actual their scent. The way they talk, the way they look, the way they dress, you're gonna see remnants of that idea or culture.
For sure.
So I think in the same way, it's like with this, it's saying you know where people eat, drink, and even where they reverence is accustomed to stink. It has its own scent or flavor,
Yeah.
And you can pick that up. So one should not go into these places if one wishes to breathe pure air. So if you're going in there to be like, this isn't Zarathustra's cave that you're going into. You're going into a city. You know what I mean? If you want to breathe pure air, you have to understand that the city is not your cave.
For sure. Like there's a taste to it. Like for example, like going to my jujitsu gym, like you're coming in the shark pit. Like we have like a vibe, we have like a hierarchy, and like if you're a new person, like it's not like this is gonna be like this is all my own pure air and it's like what I'm gonna make of it. It's like you kind of have to adapt to like what we're doing, and then like kind of make that your own, Yeah,
but, like we color the pages a certain way.
But it's gonna be a flavor of shark pit because like this is what we're doing here.
Right. All right. 31.
Yeah.
I need to hear what you thought when you read that, though. Do you think he was going after Christianity?
Well, just in the context, like the Bible's the most sold book, the most made book in history, So
most stolen book as well.
Yeah.
The most what?
Stolen book. I want to hear
Yes.
David's thought though. I want to hear David's thought.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like every time where he's calling out, like he's just mentioning these like big like blanket terms like books or like
Churches.
he said, yeah, churches. He says later on self-renunciating morality, and that just makes me think of sacrifice, you know, like the story of Christ and like what sacrifice means in Christianity. He's just like flipping it on, you know, its head and kind of like breaking it apart.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I agree.
It touches the Christian note for you.
Go. Hey, you gotta
Yeah,
go.
it makes you think about it, you know.
Yeah. I'm wondering what other ones we can apply to it as well. I mean, because that's the first one that comes to your head, you know, but there has to be other ones as well that it's just that idea in general.
I mean, I think it's just a general idea,
Right.
you know,
But if it
but
applies
like,
to you, then the shoe fits, you know?
I do love that saying.
right.
31, probably my favorite so far.
All right. Let's hear your interpretation and then we'll go through it.
Okay. He's talking about you and like coming into your consciousness. Okay. Where to start really? There's this one part from the beginning. Okay. Well, this first line, in our youthful years, we will still venerate and despise without the art of nuance, which is the best gain of life. And we have rightly to do hard penance for having fallen upon men and things with yea and nay. Everything is so arranged that the worst of all taste, the taste of all unconditional, is cruelly befooled and abused until a man learns to introduce a little art. When I read that, I was like, okay, when you are young, like there's a thing like you're angsty. So like you first really start coming into consciousness as like a young teen, you know, like you're a kid, and then like you're a young teen, right? And you start having an opinion on things. And like a lot of times when you're young, that age, you have a strong opinion on things, you know, almost vile. I remember when I was a young kid, I was like stereotype troublemaker, stereotype like me and my friends were trying to like lash out because like we were trying to like see where the boundaries of life were in a lot of ways, you know, and you're like almost like thrashing around and stuff until like you don't have the art of nuance yet. Like, you don't know how to like the gray, how to be like, oh, a little of this and a little of that. You know, you're very like all in or nothing. You know, and then you finally, if you're lucky, learn a little bit of art. And like, what's art? Art's being like the basic of art. Like if you have like a color wheel, you know, like blue and yellow make green, right? So like you can have two separate ideas and kind of meet in the middle. And that's level one of like having a nuanced perspective of life. Life isn't like these rigid, like the rainbow, the 8, right? Like you can have a variety of thoughts, and you can actually like have a dynamic where like you're able to be different shades of yourself in different situations. And like that takes a lot of practice. And when you're a young man, like everything seems so like a volcano of emotion all the time, you know? Like I don't know if you guys ever think back in that, and maybe it's because like I'm a teacher and I see this all the time, but like people get so fucking caught up in like the moment, and like it's like, dude, it's literally gonna be fine, you know?
Right.
And like you learn that as you mature. So that's that first part.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. So to venerate is to hold something in high regard or with a lot of respect. So like in our youthful years, we hold things in high respect and despise them without the art of nuance, just like John described. Like, you know, it's either yes or it's no. It's not like
I mean,
you know?
just for an example, like you would have like the highest respect for like maybe like your father, your grandfather, or like
Right.
God, if like that's what you're taught as a young kid. And like I remember, you know, I was in kindergarten when 9/11 happened. So all that through elementary school, I was like subjected to like mass propaganda about like the Middle East and like people going to war. And like when I was like 13, so now middle school, like not just I, but like my fellow peers, like we hated outside of people, like very clear cut. Okay.
Right.
And like we felt fine thinking that. And like now as I'm like matured, there's a lot of nuance in that, you know, like they weren't the bad guys. Like maybe we had a big part of playing of being the bad guys, you know, like I think there's a lot more to unpack there. But because like my level of thinking was so simple back then, I was ready to accept like narratives, either this, yay or nay. And I was okay with just that. No research.
And that's I feel like a lot of society today, like let's say our big cultural debating topics, it's yay or it's nay. They're the nuance, when you bring up the nuance for discussion, is when things get nasty, you know?
Mhm.
For some people, because like
For a lot of people.
I feel like we've lost practice on having nuance, and I don't know why that happens. You know, like I see clips of like, and I see a lot. It's really on both sides, but I see a lot from the left. Like I see old clips of like liberals in like the 90s and the 2000s, and like they had a lot of nuance about like health and like pharma and like government and free speech and like all this stuff. And like now it's just yay or nay. There's no nuance on like the new Democratic Party. A lot of the nuance is like now with the Republican Party's coming, and even then, like I think a lot of people still are the yay or nay type of people. You know, I just think the middle's moved to the right because there's a little bit more room to breathe. But like
No, the left moved, the middle stayed.
But you know what I mean? Like
I hear you.
the middle converged on the right. Like we saw in our last election. Like I mean, it was a landslide. So, but
yeah, I mean, you pretty much described it pretty well. Let's continue.
Okay.
So
I ended with
you said introduce a little art into his sentiments, and prefer to try conclusions with the artificial as do the real artists of life. The angry and reverent spirit peculiar to youth appears to allow itself no peace until it is suitably falsified men. It has suitably falsified men and things to be able to vent its passion upon them. Youth in itself, even, is something falsifying and deceptive. Later on, when the young soul, tortured by continual disillusions, finally turns suspiciously against itself, still ardent and savage, even in its suspicion and remorse of conscience, how it abrades itself, how impatiently it tears itself, how it revenges itself for its long self-blinding, as though it has been voluntary blindness. In this transition, one punishes oneself by distrust of one's sentiments, one tortures one's enthusiasm with doubt, one feels even the good conscience to be a danger, as if it were the self-concealment and lassitude of a more refined uprightness. And above all, one espouses upon principle the cause against youth. A decade later, and one comprehends that all this was also still youth.
Bam, dude! What a banger to end it on! What a banger to end it on! I like.
I thought youth was dead. It's like that's still youth.
I know I've been talking a lot. Does someone else have something to say? Because I still have more to say, but I don't want to.
Like, so like this is what I'm seeing. When you're young, you have these these yay or nay things that you're on, and then as you get older, let's say a decade later, you're like, well, that was dumb. You know, like to be that guy. How stupid! I can't believe how stupid I was. And then you live your life according to, okay, that was stupid, and like you now have what does he say here? You even start to feel distrust about your own sentiments. You when you get enthusiastic, you face it with doubt, and you feel like even if you think in good conscience that it's actually a danger, it's like, I don't know if it's good or self-conscious or not. So you start picking yourself apart with doubt, and then at the end, a decade later, you realize that even that critiquing of yourself was youth. Like, oh well, like doubt.
It's like I was dumb then too. Like when I first read it, when he talks about like the remorse and like the distrust and like the voluntary blindness and like the pain and stuff, I think like, especially when you're younger, like you feel like, especially when like a lot of like hardships, like your first hardships, you feel like this is such a deep well that I'm in. This is such a bad storm that I'm in. This is such a heartbreak that I'm in. This is such a whatever I'm in, you know? Right. But that's just part of youth, you know? And like, you look back and you're like, wow, it's super dumb to think about it that way. And like, I thought to myself, like, why this resonated so much with me, I felt like it saw right through me. And I was like, this must be like all human story. Like, if I would talk to my dad, you know, like every 10 years, he must be like, he's like, man, what, he must have been like, what was I thinking? You know, and like
Yeah.
my dad lived a fucking good life, but even him, you know, even like everybody
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you always look back and you're like, I was so fucking dumb. Even when you did good, like it's just like that was youth, because like that's literally just how it's going, you know?
Right. And yeah, every 10 years or whatever, every year, 5 years, you turn around, and you're like, wow, that was dumb. Like, wow, that was dumb. You know, how young I was. And then you're like 60 looking back when you're 50, you're like, man, how young I was. You're like, dude, I was 50, you know?
Yeah.
So, and
I
it
know.
happens to every single person, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, I think that was a really good one. So I've been working with ChatGPT. So on here it says how the aphorism applies to the modern reader. In today's world, Nietzsche's critique of youthful absolutism resonates strongly. Social media and polarized public discourse often reflect the yay or nay mentality, where nuanced opinions are rare. Nietzsche advises to learn the art of nuance, challenges modern readers to embrace complexity and avoid oversimplification. The progression from youthful passion to mature reflection parallels the personal growth many individuals experience. Modern readers can take solace in Nietzsche's reminder that youthful errors are not failures, but integral steps towards self-awareness and wisdom.
I just thought about something to kind of tie these two things together. But earlier we talked about like the labyrinth and like how the independent person, like there's no sympathy from the other man, like when like shit doesn't go your way, you know? Like to pair these two things, like it's like as a youth, like you enter the labyrinth, you know, and like every hardship, like really no one fucking knows what you're going through, and you feel like whatever, you know. But
Right.
like as you continue to make it through the labyrinth, as you look back, you're like, damn, dude, if I would have known all that, I would have done this shit so much. I would have done the maze so much differently.
Right.
You know? But like you literally can't, because you didn't know that part of the maze yet. You know, you're literally going in like this is like this is all new, you know? And like the things that you do learn, they help you in like when you see those puzzles again in the maze, like you know how to conquer them. But you still find new puzzles in your life all the time, you know?
Right.
And like after you figure it out, it's easy to look back and be like, oh, but like also people aren't worried about what you're doing in your labyrinth because they're fucking doing their own thing, you know? They can only worry so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's walking their own labyrinth, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the you guys seen a Harry Potter Goblet of Fire?
Of course,
Oh,
dude. Of
Okay.
course I have.
But
Of course I have.
if you're a person like, let's say you're Harry Potter, you're like the kid that dies, Robert Pattinson, I think his name.
Yeah, huh?
If you're that person, that's the actual person that's engaging in like the labyrinth, and like you come back afterwards and you're like, man, bro, I had to fight a dragon today. This guy turned into a shark. His head was like a shark. They'd be like, wow, like that's crazy. But you couldn't get any sympathy from that person. You know what I mean? They'd just be like, wow, that's like really crazy, man. And like that person couldn't be like, man, like, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Like Voldemort showed up and fucking killed him in front of me.
Yeah.
They're like, bro, that's crazy. That is crazy. That's
The hedges
crazy.
were like 700 feet tall. Like,
But you won though? Pretty sick.
Right. All right. You guys want to go to 32?
Yeah.
This one was a long one.
This one was trippy, dude.
Oh, okay. I wrote to summarize the whole thing in evolving consciousness, question mark.
Evolving consciousness.
The pre-moral era. Period.
Okay. What you're gonna break it down anyway. Like, are you gonna read the whole thing? What's your plan?
Yeah, I was gonna read through it, but if you have something like off the top of your head, go for it.
He kind of talks about something like some things that would maybe be like obscure now, like in the moment, or let's say in the past, that now we like hold as like being like morally correct now, or like virtually correct now, was like morally obscure in the past, and
Right.
virtuous like okay, and like so as people we kind of keep moving in a direction of shifting the goalpost of like what's morally correct and what's virtually correct. And I bet you if you look at it from start the man, like caveman, to now, like we're moving in a particular type of direction
Right.
where like we're trying to like have all of us included, We're all trying to be above like starving. We're trying to not have war. We're trying to like be as cooperative as possible in a lot of ways. Okay. And that'd be very obscure if you go all the way back to like villages type shit. Okay. And so what we're living in now, like the obscure thoughts now could be like the future's norm, the future's moral norm. And like all the time we're kind of fighting like a battlefield of like what's right and what's wrong. And like I feel like as a people, and what he's kind of getting at, what I thought was like when you first have an idea, like the general people aren't ready for that idea. But if the idea is good enough and it takes root, it evolves into like the moral norm of society. So as a whole, our consciousness of like morality, virtue, stuff like that is evolving in like in a cosmic way, as a collective for all humans.
Right.
And that's kind of what I got at. Like we're kind of always evolving into a certain direction of like thinking. Like that's kind of what like thinking is. Like, well, maybe that's like part of like the process of what we're supposed to be doing. And like to kind of give like an example of today, and it's like a polarized one, but like 10 years ago, they're fighting for gay marriage. Okay. And like 10 years before that, it'd be very obscure to even like think that should be like a political issue. Fast forward to today, being transgender is like on the forefront of like ideas, if that's normal, if that's not normal. And like it seems like it being not normal is winning. But if there was not like a battlefield to do it on, at the trajectory at which it first started, you could foresee that in the next 10 years that being trans would be a highly normal thing, you know?
Mhm.
Just like how being like openly gay is a highly normal thing, where like 20 years ago for sure wasn't. 10 years ago it was really just getting started. And I know there's been pockets of gay, like San Francisco has like been a well-known pocket of like being gay, right? But as a country, as a world, much more open, you know?
Right.
So that's just like an example that we can kind of see in our own lives, you know?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, that's the historical evolution of morality. That's one of the main ideas ChatGPT
Boom.
with.
I'm doing this shit raw, dog. Raw, bro.
Here, let's see what Nietzsche has to say about it.
All right.
But throughout the longest period of human history, one calls it the prehistoric period. The value or non-value of an action was inferred from its consequence. The action in itself was not taken into consideration any more than its origin. But pretty much as in China at present, where the distinction or grace of a child rebounds to its parents, the retro operating power of success or failure was what induced men to think well or ill of an action. The retro operating power of success or failure was what induced men to think well or ill of an action. So if like
That, I mean, that makes sense.
put into it like into motion an idea and it became successful, they didn't question the origin of it. They just were like, this works.
The assembly line, like it's like
Right.
people are like, oh shit, you can make cars like that.
Right.
Oh shit, the success was so like accepted that people were like, we should make assembly lines in all factories.
Right. And so back in the prehistoric era, things were determined either good or bad based on its success. So let us call this the pre-moral period of mankind. The imperative know thyself was then still unknown. In the last 10,000 years, on the other hand, on certain large portions of the earth, one has gradually got so far that one no longer lets the consequences of an action, but its origin, decide with regard to its worth. A great achievement as a whole, an important refinement of vision and of criterion, the unconscious effect of the supremacy of aristocratic values and of the belief in origin, the mark of a period which may be designated in the narrower sense as the moral one. So like when people didn't care about the origin, and then people evolved when the origin mattered more than the consequence of the action.
It's like that the SpongeBob episode where they go prehistoric mode, and there's that scene of like SpongeBob when he's like looking at the stick and then looking at the fire, and he's like he just like freaks out, and then he fucking lights a fire, but there wasn't any like moral behind it. It was just a successful thing at making a fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how fire was made, baby. Shout out to SpongeBob.
The first attempt at self-knowledge is thereby made. Instead of the consequences, the origin, what an inversion of perspective. And assuredly an inversion effected only after long struggle and wavering. To be sure, an ominous new superstition, a peculiar narrowness of interpretation, attained supremacy precisely thereby. The origin of an action was interpreted in the most definite sense possible, as origin out of an intention. People were agreed in the belief that the value of an action lay in the value of its intention.
I mean, again,
I disagree, bro. You can say something like your girl or whatever, and then they take it the wrong way. Like I didn't intend for it to be taken that way.
Well, when you read that, it made me think of the Bible again.
Really?
Yeah. Just like you can do these things, and the origin of which you do these things is because like it comes from God, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he's kind of like you said a peculiar narrowness of interpretation attains supremacy. Precisely thereby the origin of action was interpreted in the most definite sense possible as the origin out of an intention. So like when I read that, this narrowness, this peculiar narrowness of an interpretation attains supremacy, I thought of like Christianity.
Okay.
And all their actions come from the origin of like, I'm doing this to praise the Lord. I'm doing this to worship the Lord, and I'm doing this to like to do good works for the Lord. And you Ace Co, you would say like that is a pretty peculiar narrowness way of thinking that like took hold of a large population of the earth.
Yeah.
Ace, go.
Okay. All right, we'll continue. The intention as the sole origin and I don't even know that word. Antecedent.
Antecedent.
Okay.
I
The
don't know
intention
where
as the sole origin and antecedent history of an action. Under the influence of this prejudice, moral praise and blame have been bestowed, and men have judged and even philosophized almost up to the present day. Is it not possible, however, that the necessity may now have arisen again, making up our minds with regard to the reversing and fundamental shifting of values, owing to a new consciousness and acuteness in man? It is not possible that we may be standing on the threshold of a period which to begin with would be distinguished negatively as ultramoral. Nowadays, when at least among us immoralists, the suspicion arises that the decisive value of an action lies precisely in that which is not intentional, and that all its intentionalness, all that is seen, sensible, or sensed in it belongs to the surface or skin, which, like every skin, betrays something, but can still more.
Mm-hmm.
He's been
that bulk of like words you just read right there made me think of like the evolving consciousness.
Yeah.
And like you really think we're on the threshold of something new. It's like we always are. Like the things are always moving, you know. The perspective is always being inverted. A common thing you hear right now is the pendulum swinging, you know, because like so yeah, you know, we're kind of always like, wait, maybe this didn't work out, you know. Like for example, I always go back just what's happening right now, but like past 10 years, I feel like we've been heavily subjugated to like very left ideas that have like shown up in places of like media, like TV shows, books, movies, schools, places of work. The places of work have DEI training, like a lot of that, you know, is like, and then we're now kind of swinging back to like companies are actually cutting their DEI programs because they're like, hey, we might have like, and because these big companies, like, it's not like they have like a lot of back to like they just do what's successful, you know. They saw that like 10 years ago, if they would implement these things, they got like a big social cred, a big like, yeah, you know, we're progressive, we're your DEI, and like it was all cool, and they really didn't think it was that much of a buy-in. But now they're seeing that like it kind of gums up the works of like corporate America, you know,
Right.
and like all the companies care about is what's successful. They're not really rooted in ideology. Not like most of them aren't. A couple of them are. Like you can say Chick-fil-A is rooted in ideology, or what's another good like Apple for like a long time. You could even still say it is rooted in a certain type of ideology. You know, they want to make a simple, nice looking product that the average user can use. You know, and they stick to like those things. Yeah, but most corporations don't. So they just go with whatever's successful, and whatever's successful is like a lot of times like our perception of like morals gets flip-flopped a lot, you know.
Yeah, and it's always evolving.
It is for sure always evolving. You could ask my dad that, like him growing up in like, you know, Leesburg, fucking in the 70s, you know,
Right.
different world.
All right, let's continue. In short, we believe that the intention is only a sign or symptom, which first requires an explanation. A sign, moreover, which has too many interpretations and consequently hardly any meaning in itself alone. That morality, in the sense in which it has been understood hitherto, an intention morality, has been a prejudice, perhaps a prematureness and preliminariness, probably something of the same rank as astrology or alchemy, but in any sense, something which must be surmounted. The surmounting of morality, in a certain sense, even the self-mounting of morality. Let that be the name for the long secret labor which has been reserved for the most refined, the most upright, and also the most wicked consciousness of today as the living touchstones of the soul. So intention morality is a prejudice. It's premature, it's preliminary, and it should be viewed as something along the same ranks as astrology or alchemy.
When he said that, I was like, he literally burnt those people.
Yeah,
Dude.
so
Like,
hard.
I was like, he literally was like, I'll put this in the same category as astrology. I was like, oh, fuck. talk about a tweet. That's like Nietzsche tweeting now. Like this
Right.
shit sucks. Astrology.
There's
Oh my
surmounting of morality in a certain sense, even the surmounting of morality.
When I read that, I was like, oh, fuck.
So the name of the new long secret labor, which is reserved for the most refined, the most upright, and the most wicked, is called the surmounting of morality. There's what ChatGPT says how it applies to the modern day reader. So this aphorism resonates strongly with contemporary debates about accountability and morality. In today's world, actions are often judged by both their outcomes and intentions, creating tensions in moral and legal judgment. Nietzsche's critique of morality as a prejudice mirrors modern critiques of rigid ideologies or dogmatic thinking. The idea of an ultra-moral state where deeper subconscious truths and expressions are explored might be compared to psychological or sociological perspectives that look beyond individual intent to systemic or implicit factors. For the modern individual, Nietzsche invites us to think critically about how we evaluate actions, whether we overly focus on intention, consequences, or something deeper. His reflection encourages a reevaluation of inherited values and moral structures, suggesting that growth requires questioning and transcending them.
That's why I think he's taking a stab at Christianity, but also you could say like, you know, Muslim, Judaism, but that's why I thought the Christianity thing. He's pretty much being like, it could. He's like, it could almost be astrology in a lot of ways. I was like, damn, dude, that one kind of hurt. I'm still critically thinking because that's the Lord gave me the ability to do so. You know.
I feel like what do you think it falls into? The ultra moral surmounting of morality or intention morality based? Like at the end of Crime and Punishment, instead of being like he murdered somebody, that's life, the judges looked at his case as let's take the picture as a whole. Like,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
this would be like they took into account his intention. Like, what was your intention to do the murder? And then, like, what did you do afterwards? You kept all the stuff, you didn't sell it, you know, like they
And
evaluated
they,
the whole picture.
and they took like witness testimony to describe like past good deeds that he had done.
Right.
More like to verify his character.
Right. And so, like, the morality thing in there, I think, you know, when he's saying it, we look beyond that, we now look at
Well,
systemic or implicit behavior.
well, in that book, I mean, the morality was that they were flexible and they weren't rigid, you know. And because of that, they gave Raskolnikov like a second chance, and he ended up finding, he ended up outgrowing, you know, kind of his angsty youth, in jail, you know.
Right.
And he looks back and like, fuck, was I retarded, you know?
Yeah.
And he gets to start another chapter or phase in his life with that girl, and I cannot remember her name right now. Fuck, what was her name? Start with that. Is the S maybe?
Sophia.
Sophia?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He gets to start a second life with her, Sophia. Was it Sophia? I feel like it's not.
It is.
Okay. But yeah, so because of that, I mean that's how that book wrapped up.
What was your initial?
Like, my question is, does that fall into like Nietzsche's way where he's saying we're surmounting the morality, or does it fall into intention morality based judgment? Like, so the Nietzsche's way he's saying is the surmounting of morality.
Can I just add on to my thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
One, the book is wrapped up. Dostoevsky wrapped up Nietzsche's way of thinking, which is like constantly critically thinking about the situation at hand and all the context, the origin and the action.
Right.
But Raskolnikov, the main character, the way he saved, and the message that Dostoevsky is also trying to show is he saved by eventually bowing down to the Lord and accepting the Lord as his savior. Because Ace, go, son of a bitch. Because despite it all, there's no better alternative that Dostoevsky found. Like, and because he was a heavy critic of Christianity, but still, after all of his thinkings and like his research, he still couldn't find a better alternative for his morality. So he still ended up giving it up to Christianity, which is what Raskolnikov did, which is how he beat kind of his angsty youth, and how he gets to like have his next chapter of life. Because even after the judge gave him that light sentence, he was still a prisoner in his heart and his mind and his soul when he was at jail. He had this woman who traveled to Siberia to be with him, and he still had an ice cold heart, you know. And all that changed when he finally accepted a higher power within himself.
Yeah.
And that's how the book ends.
Right.
So it's really it's a combination of things. Like, I think like on the human scale of things and like how we like facilitate things, I think being flexible and like looking at the bigger picture is good. But when it comes down to the individual, Raskolnikov was saved because he finally found a bigger thing to give himself up to, and to realize like, damn, I actually have a lot of good. Like, look at this bitch who loved me, you know. The Lord gave me that shit. You know, the Lord gave me a second chance. You know, the crime and punishment, I should be put to death. That should be a punishment. But like, why was I given a second chance? You know?
Right. Yeah. All right. Anything else to add before we go to 33? No?
Ace.
All right. 33. Let's just go through it. It cannot be helped. The sentiment of surrender, of sacrifice for one's neighbor, and all self-renunciation morality must be mercilessly called to account and brought to judgment, just as the aesthetics of disinterested contemplation, under which the emasculation of art nowadays seeks insidiously enough to create itself a good conscience.
What did you guys think? What was your take on disinterested contemplation? Like, what does that mean? The aesthetics of disinterested.
That's the first.
Well, I feel like you got to take it along with under which the emasculation of art nowadays seeks indecently. I feel like you got to take it all together. What I thought of that is like you kind of got to the emasculation, so to make things not as like strong as like the way I read that, So the disinterested in the disinterested contemplation, like people like Destiny. Do you guys know who Destiny is?
Yeah.
He all the time like loves debating people, like contemplating these ideas, and he's disinterested in like learning new things, and he's a very like like de-escalated emasculated man, like he's not a masculine man,
Right.
And I feel like art nowadays, like I think we see this a lot. It's like the attack of like the men in our culture. Like they want to emasculate men. They want them to be like not so independent, not so strong. That they need to be more like ambiguous and more like non-binary, really, and that's what I was thinking,
Nietzsche, so he critiques the idea of detaching oneself from personal desires or gains when engaging with art or morality. He sees this as potentially emasculated and dishonest stance.
As removing yourself from?
So detaching oneself from personal desires or gains when engaging with art or morality.
And he's saying
he says it's emasculated and dishonest stance.
Well, I don't know. Section 32, that doesn't make sense then to me if he's saying that in this section, because in 32, like the intention of morality, like
disinterested contemplation.
Trying to find it. Where is this?
Well, if something's moral or it's not, it's saying it's good or it's not. And he's saying we have to get
there's
beyond.
intention behind morality.
Mm-hmm.
And in this section, he's saying if you're giving yourself that sacrifice of that intention, like you're releasing yourself from your intentions and giving it to something else, it's looked as emasculated. But in the previous section, he's saying the intention of morality is almost the thing that is like false in a way, because you have intention of being moral rather than just giving it to the morality and choosing to like let that be the deciding factor. But I don't know how that works. That's my interpretation of what he's saying. And so he's in my mind, he's almost like backtracking in this. But I could be interpreted. But
I think it's something separate, because like he starts with the self-renunciation morality, right? And so Nietzsche challenges the morality that prioritizes self-sacrifice and surrender to others. So this is like where you think, hey, maybe he's getting into the Christian stuff. So he challenges a morality that prioritizes self-sacrifice and surrender to others, arguing that it can be insidious and deceptive. And then he calls it disinterested contemplation. But then he critiques the idea of detaching yourself from personal desire or gains. And he sees this as being emasculated or a dishonest stance.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, that's like my opinion on like the Dalai Lama and like that whole stuff. It's like,
right,
you took away all craving. That's very bitch of you, very beta. It's like, dude, like it's emasculation. It's like craving's fine, passion's fine. You need those things to be a strong man, and like art should literally be an inspiration of like these feelings, That's why like propaganda uses art a lot. Okay. Like the Romans used an eagle for their battle insignia. Okay. Today, America still uses an eagle as their battle insignia. Okay. For a lot of reasons, because it personifies like strength, and the eagle holding an olive branch because it signifies peace, like the flag that says like "Don't tread on me" with the original 13 colonies, like the states, and they're all chopped up, that's like a piece of art that was supposed to like inspire. It's like, hey, like this shit's like not fucking going right. We need to fucking do something,
Right.
But in a lot of ways, you can take art like the Christianity of putting people before yourself, and he's like, you're doing that only because it's like it's much harder to be like, I actually to look at the things you want and to aim at the things you want and to try to get the things you want. Like that takes real courage, you know? But being like, oh, I don't need those things because like for the greater good, that's kind of being cowardly, you know?
Yeah, I think like in self-renunciation morality, like in the Christian paradigm, sin is something we're supposed to give up. We don't do that anymore, right? And that's to renounce a part of yourself.
You know, another example. This is a bad example. When we think of is like, okay, imagine you're a young man, okay, and you say I'm celibate. Okay, let's say you're a young man. Okay, let's say you're a young man. You say that you're celibate because of your religion, okay?
Yeah.
But no girls want to have sex with you, but you can now say I'm not having sex because of my morality. I know this is a bad example, but like it's like a cop out of actually not competing in like the ballpark of like finding a mate, you know?
Deceptive.
So like you're kind of like masking something with like a moral idea, and you're like, that's why I don't. Yeah, like that's why I don't do this. You know, it's like, well, are you not doing that because you don't want to, or is it because you can't? You don't have the option to.
Yeah, you're not.
You know what? Yeah, which one sounds better?
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Oh, it's like the never mind.
No, say it.
It's like the 10K and the mileage. Like you could say 10K because it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, like the packaging of it, right? The packaging.
I was talking to our boy about that. I was like, bro, we should run 50K, fucking 60K.
Yeah, 60K.
I ran a 30K today. Some light.
I just thought that was funny.
All right, let's continue. There is far too much witchery and sugar in the sentiments for others, and not for myself. For one not needing to be doubly distrustful here, and for one asking promptly, are they not perhaps deceptions, that they please him who has them and him who enjoys their fruit, and also the mere spectator? That is still no argument in their favor, but just calls for caution. Let us therefore be cautious.
Yeah, I think you just said what John said.
Right. Yeah. So like there's witchery and sugar. Like you're saying, you have like you're dressing up a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, you're like you put gold flakes on a piece of shit, it's still a piece of shit, but you can be like, wow, that's fancy shit, you know? So like you're there's witchery and sugar, and I'm doing this for others. I'm doing this for others. I'm not doing this for myself. And like, so to be cautious of people like that, be cautious of those types of ideas, be cautious of being like that in yourself.
Because the only way you find out people like that is if you like build some sort of relationship with that person.
Right.
But then you've already kind of gone too far.
Yeah. You learn sooner or later. Is it possible to act truly selflessly?
I don't think so.
I mean, and then you could unpack this, but like, let's say there's an accident, or like the light. Let's say the lifeboat scenario. Okay, ship sinking, lifeboat scenario, and like you offer up your spot to like women and children first. Okay.
Okay.
That is a selfless thing to do, right? Now, why are you doing this? Like, is it 100% selfless? It's like, well, the answer is no, but because there's a level of like responsibility on your shoulders as being a man. There's a level of pride. There's a level of shame if you would go back and they would find out that you took spots for women and children, right? Like, why does a captain sink with the ship? You know? So like, there's a lot of other things tied up into being selfless. Like I think the pride and responsibility are big ones, but you could be selfless without like a level of responsibility. You know, I think there are scenarios like I think the lifeboat one's like a good example, or like how what a parent would do for their kid. And like, is it selfless? Like no, because like their kid's a continuation of them. You know, but in a sense, it is selfish because like so many times like parents pause their life to allow their kids' life to grow more, you know?
Right.
And now is that selfless? No, because it's their responsibility. you know. But if they didn't do it, it'd be selfish, you know.
Right.
Mm.
The
So,
act of parenthood is the ultimate act of selflessness.
Yeah, I think
in the best case scenario,
Right. Unless you're getting a check. Like I'm having a kid
because
because I get a check.
because some parents aren't good parents, and we label them as being selfish, you know.
Right.
But the role model of a great parent is a selfless parent, you know.
yeah, the I guess how I would take this is like take that scenario, the man selflessly removing himself from the lifeboat, but that man is the man that lived his whole life in deception, deceiving people. Is he right in being able, like, people will now, it's a question to you guys, like, well, do you think people would from here on out, knowing that that guy died, as a selfless actor, or would he be remembered as the deceptive his whole life that he used to be his whole life?
That's just a toss up on people who write history. Like, for example, like people label George Floyd as like a fucking saint, you know, and like he was literally like a consistent person dealing with the law, consistent person dealing with drugs, consistent person dealing with like different levels of violence, crime, etc. Right? But none of that's remembered. He's remembered as like a fucking reverend saint, you know?
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is I think that's where my own understanding of like a person being remembered as, you have to be remembered as selfless. Like you can't give yourself that title. Like I'm not saying the George Floyd thing is like he's deserved. I'm just
the only person that can verify if it was or not was the self, though.
But how do you give yourself? How does one give yourself? Like how do you title that if you're selfless?
So if I'm doing something
Mhm.
and like I'm doing something so that other people see me doing that something, it's not a selfless act. I gain in some way.
Intention behind it.
Right. But if I'm doing something and I don't gain in any way, and I'm doing it because I'm not obliged to do it, I'm doing it because I am, I can say for myself that that was a selfless act. But nobody else will be able to determine that because you're the person that is weighing the pros and cons.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in order for people to be I'm just saying remembered as a selfless person, other people have to agree amongst each other.
I mean, I would agree. Like a teacher retired last year, and like he is remembered by like former students and staff as like a selfless coach, a guy who'd go like above and beyond and like do all these things and blah blah blah. And it's not like he gave himself that title. That's what people are saying that he is, you know. And like it's because like consistently at a very consistent rate, he would do what people would describe as selfless, or at the very least, like he was a very supportive person in the community, so he got the title of being like a selfless person, you know.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I have.
Those some good sections.
Yeah.
It was crazy, like listening, taking it all in.
Seriously, yeah.
For end of recording. I think 29. You know how you were saying keep in mind lines for like short videos?
Mhm.
I think